Hey guys, welcome to the first Ojama podcast. After many technical difficulties, we're here together. I hope you like my spoon. So the first thing on today's agenda is the new ban list. So does anybody have their opinions? Someone give me an opinion.
Well, let's just run through what actually got hit, right? So Moon got banned, Splash Mage gets banned, Paradise Smasher gets banned, and Feral Imps gets
Yep.
banned as well. So is there anything that anyone actually wanted hit that wasn't hit?
Featherstorm.
Yeah, floodgates. Death to floodgates. I mean,
Well, let's name them, right? So what is it? It's Featherstorm, it's Protoss. Is there anything else?
I mean,
No.
I think the issue is obviously people expected the one-off drops to start going off the list.
Oh, like the
Um,
floodgates,
the
like
anti-spells,
rivalry.
the Tikaboos, they've been pretty prevalent in the last format as well because every deck could play one of them to a
Yeah.
pretty successful degree. Obviously, Vanquish Soul is able to play. There can be only one. Yummy saw a lot of success like Gozen or Rivalry, and Draco Tail just played whatever it could, to be honest. For a
I think
floodgate
it's
game.
starting to play a lot of them now. Actually, it's like I've seen a few different lists that are playing. I think the only one it's not playing is isn't it Gozen maybe? Or am I wrong?
I'm not too sure. I don't
It's like rivalry because you can sit under rivalry quite well, and then Tikaboo can work as well. If you just sit on a dragon or a spellcaster, you can sort of
Skill drain also I've seen
skill
because
drain as well.
Altharion's just a big guy.
Yeah, and then it comes back as well, right? And you have multiple ways to trigger the Grave so that it comes back. So you can just do skill drain beatdown. But
yeah, so the continuous traps I think were a bit of a miss that we had. I think Protoss was another big one. Cards like Dimensional Barrier and Harpy's Featherstorm
big time.
didn't see any misses, which the Scopy still being at 3, and then Thrust obviously still being completely fine. Is quite frustrating. I think what they did land on a limit for, which was good, which doesn't support those, is Judgment is now down to 1. So you only have one copy of a protective card for those floodgates, and Lightning Storm went to 3. So you now have more copies of back row removal to get rid of those floodgates.
I think it's interesting. Obviously, it would be nice to get rid of some of the lingering floodgates. I would love to get rid of Lancia and Droll, but I understand why they're there. And then Judgment makes a lot of sense. New time rules, a card that no longer gets punished by time rules, that can stop so much stuff. It makes sense to put it down to 1. And to be honest, I'm surprised they didn't just ban it because sometimes they love just banning stuff like that. So, but then King of Thrones makes sense. They want to check Mitsu and they want to check Ryze, the link between all of that. It makes a lot of sense. I think Splash Mage is very interesting because now we're saying it's just the Haggard line. That's the only thing that can they've only got the one line, and we're saying what was it? You can only Field Spell isn't a one card combo anymore.
Field Spell doesn't work anymore. Most of your starters, Sark's still fine because they're still a Dormice.
Isn't it that they're going to have to start playing TB11 now? So Malice has to play TB11 to turn White Rabbit into a starter now. Probably. And what's nice about that is it makes not only have you also limited Dormice and then ban Splash Mage, but you've reduced the consistency by one more piece by forcing them to put the trap in. Forcing them to put the trap in because you don't have that bridge in the extra deck with Splash Mage means that it's so much better in terms of trying to actually hand trap the deck. It's sort of your hand traps feel a bit more meaningful because they've one less name push because they're forced to use a name push to climb up into the 3. If you see what I mean.
I think the only concern I'd have is does it matter because the current Malice build that has seen success at tournament level was Canine Malice, I think. As in just playing Izuna and Lupus, which still just work as extenders for the deck of, your normal summon Dormice is Veilard, Izuna into Lupus, and then you've got Link 3 material all of a sudden. Things like that are still prevalent for the deck, but I think its popularity is going to completely plummet because it's also kind of got a stray now of the deck's less popular, but Luna Light's increased in popularity because of Worlds. So Lancia could still be a thing.
It's one of those annoying things where it's the decks, it's kind of a bit like Branded. How there was a period when people stopped playing Ash Blossom for a bit. This was a number of formats ago, but when people stopped playing Ash Blossom, maining it, Branded actually became quite a scary and really, really good deck because if they're not going to have Ash for your Branded fusion, that deck's kind of crazy. But it's the same thing as true. If people stop using the Lancia, it's this weird thing of just how Lunalight doesn't want people to have outs for Lunalight in the extra deck. They don't want people playing the Mitsurugi Kaiju
Wosu.
card. Yeah, Wosu. or even what's the fire Kurikawa,
Kurikawa.
right? They don't want people playing that or like lava golems or kaijus in their decks, just because then that'll create too many like counters to your Lunalight Liger Dancer. But the point I'm trying to get across is something along the lines of Malice without a spotlight on it is kind of more scary sometimes than Malice with a spotlight on it. If people stop playing Lancia, then that deck can kind of become a bit more real.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think, Lunalight's in a weird position now as well, because obviously it's not been as hit as everything else, which makes it kind of good. And it's like, we had this discussion a while ago about how, like, branded, if it's the best deck in the room, it's like not at all immediately, because everybody just hard counters it immediately.
Yeah.
So it's like, I wonder if Lunalight kind of falls in that picture where now it's in a good spot. A lot of people want to play it, so now all of a sudden a lot of people are a lot more prepared for it, and it kind of loses that spotlight. Especially going like after Worlds, everybody loved that deck. So you're seeing a lot more of it at tournaments and stuff. So
I think the reason why the Lunalight deck is actually scary now is because the Paradise Smasher got banned. Right, like if you watch the second place was at Worlds,
Tom Klein, Grabber.
His deck profile, he explained essentially it's sort of like, oh cool, well there's no Paradise Smashers, so if I go first and can make Liger Dancer, I just sort of win. And if no one has an outdell Liger Dancer, then you do just win. With Paradise Smasher gone, you now don't have to worry about the floodgate. Now, there might be a scenario where people, instead of using Paradise Smashers, people are like, right, okay, well, I guess my floodgate has to be Protoss now. So it's like, if they're like, Protoss is the floodgate and we're not going to use Paradise Smasher, it might end up something like that. But
deck diversity limits that to a degree. The thing with Paradise was every K9 strategy had a way to access it. Memento had so many ways. Crystron
have like a game 2-3 kind of scenario.
Then? Yeah, you have to start dedicating like additional main deck bricks to play Protoss and Flag, if you want to play both, which just doesn't feel as good.
And then also the Ryzeal cards get hit, so like that's maybe a bit less likely, because obviously like if Ryzeal's weaker, then trying to do a Protoss is sort of like, it doesn't feel as good, because the deck that you're playing it in is significantly weaker than it was before.
Does the Onomatopoeia deck, does that lock you at all? Anybody know?
Into XYZs, I believe.
As in, you can only summon XYZs, or in what? So you can't special summon level 4s? Or you mean as in like from the extra deck?
From the extra deck.
Right, okay, I wasn't sure. You could have been specific. So like the Onomatopoeia deck can still
get the you know the starter for that deck's a 6, not a 4?
I don't know. Is that it? I haven't played that. The deck's not real. The deck is not real, right? Oh, is that the one that everybody gets confused by?
They also have to make Utopic F-Zero as their future F-Zero, I think, is their new boss monster, and that is a non-rank monster. It's the XYZs that don't have ranks.
It is scary though, because they've got we're now in a position where you've got yeah. No.
It does sound like an Onomatopoeia card. I'll give you that.
It does a bit, but see, for it's not the Dodo Warrior. It's the Evil Sworn card. You know the rank 4. They can actually still do that, can't they? They can still like hand loop you.
Ouroboros.
Yeah, the Ouroboros.
Oh my god, I went so old with that.
It's Ouroboros, right? It's the rank. It requires like 3 bodies or whatever, and they still got twins and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So technically, the hand loop is still there. I'm like, I think that's something they missed.
Yeah, I think at Jib's recent $600 Ironman tourney that he did for post Doom Dimensions, some players still took Mitsu Ryzeal. The tournament started pre-Banlist, so X was still at 2. Which didn't change much, and King of the Feral Imps was still legal, so that's why people wanted to play it still. But one of the matches I remember watching did end because they just hand looped for 3 and then ended on Detonator Cross and the Murakumo. So obviously they just had too many interrupts for 3 cards.
Yeah. See, it's interesting because shout out to one of our old videos. I think it was Jonas. He did a deck profile where I can't remember if he won, or he placed very well at Polish Nationals, I believe, and he played like the hand loop build, and he did really solid on it, like especially like getting hand trapped and then hand ripping. Was it 3 you can hand rip?
Yep.
I suppose if they're going to help you out by dropping hand traps on it and like loop their own hand.
It's honestly as if it's deserved. Like why are they trying to stop me from hand looping them for 3? I think that's just rude, personally. But what else is here?
So the 2 that we're saying that they've missed, right, is Evil Swarm Ouroboros should probably have been hit, and then also Protoss. Is there anything else? So
the floodgate cards,
Harpy Trap, and then like all of the sort of @1 continuous trap cards.
I don't think there's anything too frustrating that was left in the format. There's cards that obviously don't feel great, like to play against like Cryptor being an uninteractable card can sometimes feel a bit miserable, and its Metaltronus interaction can feel quite strong, but it's not a problem card in the format. It wasn't what created frustration across the last format. I think people expected a Mitsurugi hit of some kind, but no bans would be.
To be honest, it's like I'm actually kind of happy with the Mitsurugi deck just existing as a pure deck. I think it's fine as a pure deck. It's whenever it got like the Rizio cards, it sort of went over what it really should have been capable of. With King of the Realms banned, I can't see, unless someone wants to do some sort of 7th Tachyon thing where you make 2 like rank 8s and go into the card to search the 7th Tachyon. Like you can still kind of do that, but it's probably, I feel like that's the worst line ever. So.
Well, I mean, there's still a couple options with it, right? Because you can still go into duo, right? So you can still link from potentially, right? You have to have the right hand for it.
Yeah, so it's way more awkward than it previously had been, and I'm kind of happy with that as long as it's like more unlikely. Like technically, right, there is still FTKs that exist in Yu-Gi-Oh, right? But they're so difficult to resolve, and like one imperm kills the whole thing. Like I think it might not be possible actually in the TCG, but in Master Duel, a lot of players were playing like an FTK deck as one of the decks that I think like the Rizio player would play, and they're like 3v3. So like there's definitely FTKs that exist in current modern Yu-Gi-Oh.
Gimmick Puppet.
Yeah, exactly. Gimmick Puppet exists,
that was
right?
done at Worlds and FTK Nesh, I think, on stream.
Yeah. So you've that. You've also the World or whatever, the Arcana Force, the World. Yeah. So like FTKs exist, and it seems to be that Konami is okay with them existing as long as they are not like outright winning all the tournaments and doing like crazy. I think as soon as an FTK starts making like Top Cut, then we've problems.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, like so you can still bridge that way. You can't bridge the other way. And then we were speaking about this, like the Ogdo Attic is still viable, right? You can still do shenanigans with it, and you can still get there in the Feadsmith. You know, it's viable because I mean you can send one the Ogdo Attic card. I can't. Is it Nunu or is it Noya? You can send it to the graveyard and you can bring it back with.
Go and tell us your combo.
What's the boy? The boy. What's the dude? The guy. Detached to bring him back, and then that's the one. The guys.
It's like you've decided that Mitsurugi hasn't got enough bricks. You're like, let me put more bricks in my Mitsurugi deck.
60 hard power, let's go. But
I guess the important part there is you saying the bridge to Fiendsmith is worse now because Moon of the Closed Heaven is banned.
Yeah, all of the bridges are a lot weaker.
The plus to that, though, is that it meant the new time rules meant that Fiendsmith Lacrim would come off. That card's been played in Master Duel for a good couple months to a year now.
Have they got Necroquip on Master Duel?
They don't have Necroquip. I think they got it in a recent set. Yeah. I don't play it too often.
They have had Necroquip for a wee while now, I think, from what I remember. But it is quite nice that they brought the Lacrima back because it's like another extender. It also allows you to use like the tracked grave effect, which forever was like the most awkward thing because like you'd like to be able to use that fusion ability, but then it's like you need to have like 2 Fiendsmith Engravers and a Light Fiend on field to even try it, and then you like fuse into a Desiree. But
yeah, it doesn't feel great. Whereas now you can't interact with the Fiendsmith cards easily because tracked fusion into Lacrima is so strong.
Yeah.
So they've figured out something which is I think a good compromise. Judgment was the other limit we talked about already. I think that's because of time rules where Judgment no longer should be at 3 because the reason it was fine at 3 is if you have set up a full board in a game 3 situation with a Judgment, when you flip that Judgment, you're not putting yourself at under, like you're having life points. So it's highly likely you're under life points from your opponent. So if your opponent manages to play in the time, they win the duel. Yeah. That's not the case. So now Judgment has to go back to 1 because having a card that just says no to pretty much any of like the strongest cards you'd want to play in your deck feels pretty bad.
Random tangent. Have any of you seen I think was it someplace in Japan, they've got like the new artworks for different cards and they have like Japanese letters written beside them.
No, is this the no?
Yeah. They put the no beside the wrong card. Crossout has a no beside it. And then Solemn Judgment has like Japanese characteristics beside it, but it's not no. which it should be, right? It should be like
it
no
should
for
be the no.
Solemn Judgment, and then give Crossout
I
like
guess
something else.
Crossout is a pretty good no card. It
Yeah.
can know anything that isn't a counter trap or like spell speed 4 or higher, whatever it is.
It's not a perfect no. I think Solemn Judgment's the perfect no. What do you think? Like Warning or like Strike could potentially like next list if they keep doing this sort of. We don't want like people to be siding into oppressive go first cards. Also, there's an interesting thing. I think was it Magic the Gathering do it because they'll do like whenever they release a ban list, right? They have ban list like notes, so their development team will write out a whole load of notes about like this is why this was hit, this is what the problem was, this is what we missed in testing or something. We didn't understand that this and this was going to become a problem. I think it was Yu-Gi-Oh used to do that. It was around like Tengu plant format or something. It was like a long time ago.
I remember.
In like 2011, they wrote notes about like why certain things were hitting the ban list, and then I think people flamed them, and then they stopped doing it. So
yeah, it seemed like I think the exact reason was they would post a note and then people would comment and say, "You don't know your own game."
Yeah,
and Konami got enough of that; they were just like, "Right, you don't get an answer anymore."
Yeah,
it's the guy with the glasses being like, "Well, actually,"
I think also Strike and others like that, like the other
Warning and stuff.
Yeah, it's probably not going to get as likely a hit because they probably want Judgment out of the way to allow ball breakers to maybe come back through. It feels like, with all these bans especially, it feels like they're just trying to bring down the ceiling a wee bit. And then when they're bringing down the ceiling, I think they wanted to take, like, going first cards like Judgment that stops, like, everything is just, like you said, it's just no. Maybe they, like, wanted to reduce that amount so that people can still, like, play ball breakers. And it's just much easier going first or second. This last format and couple of releases really feels like they're going, we want the game to be a bit more fairer, so you can go first and second. You can win either or, and it's not like impossible. Obviously, you have to have the right hand, and if your opponent's just draws the FTK floodgate, then is what it is. But it feels like they're trying to lower it down and make it a bit more just playable and enjoyable. And like we were discussing, like we really enjoyed this. Honestly, like I really like it. I don't know about you. Like,
yeah, no. Honestly, I think it's unless you go through and are like super nitpicky about like every single ban list thing. But I think realistically, with the amount of cards that got moved in the directions in which they got moved, if you give any Yu-Gi-Oh player that thing, like they'd probably produce a list that's something similar to this. You can nitpick over a couple of things here and there, but it's like almost like a 7 or 8 out of 10 ban list. Like it's not quite a 10 out of 10 because I suppose you can be like there's a bunch of lingering floodgates that still exist, but maybe those are just like edge cases where it could maybe be a scenario where, for example, the Harpy Trap, they haven't hit that because they're thinking, well, we'll let the MST archetype come out, maybe that, because they're wind, right? The new MST cards. So there could be a scenario where they're trying to keep certain things alive for different things in the future. And if you're the ban list team, maybe you've been told by R&D, hey, look, we can't change this. This card has to stay because we need it for this format.
I think it's fine because you can justify. Like, I think most players could look at the list and understand why. You might have like a pet deck that I think like a lot of Vanquishable players will obviously be unhappy that that deck came into the limelight in early June with Duelist Advance release, and then 3 months later you got like the K9 card. You're supposed to have your heyday in the sunlight, and then Konami have said Raisin's the one, Staker Soul the one. You've now got to either play like Small World, Extra Pots, or some cope like 7th Tachyon and Dempsey.
No, it'll probably be the Infernoble Equip spell. I feel like that if you wanted to try to do it, but I still think it's too bad. It's still far too bad. I do think it would be interesting if I remember Speed Duel used to do this thing where you have certain cards and they're at 3. So the idea is that you have like a different category. So the idea is you can play, let's say, Raisin and Stake Your Soul.
The cumulative copies have
so
to be
the idea is that you like they could probably put a card to 5, and what that would mean is like you can't have more than 5 of the cards in the 5 category, if you get what I mean.
It's the Duel Links rules.
Yeah, the Duel Links rules, right? So the idea is that, I don't know, maybe they could try to implement something like that where they forgot to like hard bridge the Vanquish Soul cards so that you can only play them in Vanquish Soul. And then people bring in all the K9 cards and you're like, oh, right, this is too strong with these two things working together. But Vanquish Soul on its own or K9 on its own is completely fine, but when you combine the two of them together, it just becomes too much.
Yep.
Interesting. And then what else has been to me? Obviously, yeah, we've got the Malice and we've got the Prizal hits. Like we kind of got into detail on that. Like, I think hitting them to 1 was just to like reduce them even more, just make sure they aren't really going to be played too much. So I think that kind of makes sense. And then Summon Sork is back. Is it Summon Sork?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's back with its errata, so it's okay. It's not particularly incredible as a card. It's playable if you want to make it playable in an archetype.
But it's nice that they brought it back, right? Like the thing is, there's sometimes cards will like linger on the ban list for far too long. I think it got an errata, right? So they really should have brought it back like quite quickly. I remember for Ancient Fairy Dragon, they brought it back and were like, it will come into effect when the set comes out with its reprint, with the new errata text. Yeah, no, I think there's
they did a lot of releases for this ban list actually compared to previous ones. I think in the limits alone, Fiendsmith Lacrima came off because time rules don't matter, and Beatrice is banned, so there's no more of the set whatever trap you want either. Play, and Burning for 1200 is just a nice little push that means the Fiendsmith engine now, where you did Desiree with the 3 equips, can actually do lethal because that's 6800 damage, and then Lacrima burns for 12.
Yeah, they're also not messing about with some of the unhits there. It's like Glow Up Bulb came back, Masterpiece is back, Diagram's back, both of the Snake Eye cards are back. They're taking like stuff off, which is nice, doing a bit of spring cleaning.
Barrage, Dryden came off.
Yeah.
I think Lightning Storm
Dryden's still at 1, right? But
yeah.
I think Barrage is
at 3.
It's 3, yeah.
I think Link Kribo came off the list as well completely. So it's the one. It's the one.
Yeah.
People are expecting that to be good and yummy. Don't know how playable it's going to be, but it's another card that came off. So like the ban list should be getting smaller, and if they keep doing big lists like this, a lot of the complaints people have on the ban list management is like the length of time a card stays on. Yeah. It gives a bit like of diversity. I think actually Frozen Card Gaming made a video yesterday talking about K9 Zodiac as a deck. So Dryden plus the K9 engine is more of a control strategy.
Sure.
But it opens up possibilities for things like that while limiting the decks that you expect. Like I think they did a good amount of preemptive hits in this list with Herald going to 1. Yeah. Crystron inclusion, Obedience School. That's quite fair limit.
This is something I actually can't remember. I'm just asking this as a question. Does Whiptail allow you to attach it to any Xyz monster, or like Zodiac Whiptail?
I started playing when Snake Eyes Ash came out. I haven't read a Zodiac card yet, so
right. Okay. Well, no, but I know that like Whiptail allows you to like attach to different Xyz monsters, but it doesn't matter.
It could be relevant for the new Constellar cards announced today.
Maybe.
There's the line.
Yeah. It's probably not.
Someone's huffing copium.
Didn't realize I got the full song. Yeah, a lot of the other like things that happened in the ban list aren't relevant. Like I think Morphing Jar came off.
That's gonna warp the meta. Let's go.
Do you know something? It's funny with like Enneacraft coming out. Like there's maybe a world where it's playable. I don't think it is, right? But if they can like search a flip and like I don't know,
sing your song again.
Copium, who's huffing on the copium train?
A lot of them do make sense though. Like the Dragonic Diagram coming off is because of the dual Doom of Dimension support for True Dracos.
But it should also just come off because it's not doing anything and won't.
Yeah, like Masterpiece has been off, and that deck I don't think has got a single top.
It's literally, I think it's at 3 on Master Duel, and I think it's about 80% of the decks on Master Duel like are only playing 1 anyway. Like you don't need it. It's at 3, and it being at 3 hypothetically means that you could play like a 60 card Desires version of the deck if you wanted to, right? And then you're less likely to obviously banish your or it would be your copies of Masterpiece or whatever, but like it just limits your ability to build then. But
I was just say, I feel like I don't know. I kind of feel like Krishan was hit a little bit unfairly, right? I feel like it wasn't even the best K9 deck you could play realistically. But I think it's happened before where like I know the top couple of decks that like win worlds or and like the top 4 like they normally do tend to get hit a little bit. So I guess when you look at it that way, like Vanquish Soul got hit really hard. It won worlds. What was I saying before my phone went off there?
You were talking about how it's unfair hit the Crystron.
Yeah, but did they top 2? No, what was the opposite?
In what?
Callus is still recording.
Yeah, it's just still. Joe, your phone stopped playing music, by the way. That's why that noise went. Hold.
We just don't like complete pause mode now.
Maybe you're gonna have to do a little bit of editing, good sir.
That's right. So yeah, before my phone really interrupted us there. No, I feel like Christian was hit a little bit unfairly. Like, yeah, they got top four. Vanquish still got first, obviously, so it makes sense they got hit fairly hard.
You mean at Worlds, yeah?
Yes, it was. Sorry, thanks for
Has
clarification.
Christian played at Worlds?
Yeah, Christian got top four at Worlds. Christian Kane.
I completely blanked on that.
Yeah, so it makes sense that they hit Christian, I suppose, but I don't know. It still feels
I think that's a preemptive hit because Vanquish Soul, typically, if you look at like lists as people were preparing for Doom Dimensions, Vanquish Soul played a single copy of Noroi because it was just okay. It's good. It's a good card. It obviously gets hand knowledge, so it's crazy in that sense. But it didn't start the Vanquish Soul combo unless you played a million bricks, so you didn't want to do it. Crystron, on the other hand, can play it with less bricks, so Crystron can bridge by using Noroi and Platinum Gadget to special summon the machine
Would
they
play
search.
multiple copies of Noroi, or just
they were able to play multiple copies. Now, it might not have been right, but it's what people were theorizing in the TCG for a bit. So
I know Platinum Gadget, like in terms of like card market value, it's like if you looked at Platinum Gadget, it's like boop.
Yeah, it spiked up on.
Just went super high.
You made sure you bought your copies early, but that card helped Crystron a lot more. And representation-wise, people expected Crystron might take over a little bit more of what Vanquish Soul already had because it became. Well, Crystron started becoming a bit of a Malice type deck where if it went first, it resolved combo. It likely won the game because they would have full hand knowledge and they have a board that obviously can set up, a negate through Infinity, a spell trap negate through Dawn Dragster, as well as their other interactions like Werewolf to rip a card from hand, Ripper to negate a hand or graveyard effect, and Cluster to pop.
And then, I think the Obedience School and the Herald hit makes a lot of sense. I suppose maybe, and they didn't touch Draco Tail, which is interesting. Maybe they thought
it's the weakest out of all three, right? So, technically, I feel like this list is sort of part of what they're doing is they're actually reducing the power of some of the big decks, and then they're lifting up other decks in
by proxy.
By proxy in relation to that. So, Draco Tail, they wanted to make it better because they want all of the decks from Justice Hunters to be relevant and represented.
Yeah. And I mean, hitting Herald stops Draco Tail from being hit as badly.
What's actually funny, I think the Vanquish Soul hits, literally killing Vanquish Soul, was a bigger boon to Draco Tail than Herald or Obedience School at all. And I'll tell you why. So the Vanquish Soul matchup was really, really bad for Draco Tail. And I think also Obedience School is kind of a funny, weird, counterintuitive one. It being at 3 meant that they couldn't end on a Herald. So whenever they activate the Obedience School as the Yummy player, as the Draco Tail player, you're kind of like, this isn't the worst. They're going to make one Herald on my turn, but if I kill the one Herald, then I can play my Draco Tail cards, and it's maybe it's
and
good
you also
from
get
there.
Priority for first action before a Herald can hit the board.
Yeah, exactly.
Which
right.
You don't want it to be a fusion, but obviously it gives you a chance to have a Lucaris on field and resolve it.
Yeah.
Before the Herald can come, and then you've always got Lucaris to beat over the Herald if they do make it straight away.
Yep.
Yeah. So there was always a few interactions which I think you got positive value from when Obedience School resolved.
Sure.
I think it's more yummy going second with Obedience School Surprise and cards like that that felt insane. Obedience School, summon 3. You want to try to start getting rid of them in the mirror. You want to book 2, pop 1, and then hope they can't extend through it. Other decks, obviously, you want to just start removing the body so they don't just make a snatchy and then all of a sudden you can't target anything. But then you could use your interactions, then all of a sudden they go Chain Surprise, target Hupsy Cookie, or whatever you've targeted, bounce them back to hand. They still have the level 1 extender already. They haven't normal summoned. They now have 2 cards back in hand, and 2 pieces of your field have been dealt with.
Do you think Yummy players will start replacing the 2 missing copies with more copies of Thrust, or how do you feel that'll go? I know you've tested it quite.
I've tested it, and I think a lot of lists, I think Triff came out with a list straight away post Banlist, and he's obviously won a YCS for the deck, and a lot of people see him as a good authority on the deck. He immediately went for 2 Thrusts and Talents in over the Obedience School. You'll also have to shuffle the ratios of main deck names with the new card Marshmallow, but Thrust seems like a pretty obvious replacement.
Sure.
The question will be more, is Thrust and other non-engine breakers, because people are playing Droplet or Book of Eclipse in the deck, are they still playable in a world where K9 Noroi exists and can get hand knowledge? Because Thrust, Droplet, and other breakers become significantly worse cards when your opponent's aware of what they have to deal with.
Yeah, no, I think I watched an interview with Aaron and Cormac, and they were talking about this exact same thing where they were saying that
Great minds.
yeah, but it's like as soon as you're like, oh, okay, you've had knowledge. Once you've had knowledge of breakers, you're just like, oh, cool. I'm just going to hold all my interrupts and then not play into your thrust. Haha, you lose.
I think another thing on like the herald point is, say if they go Malulu and like a Malulu can really push for a herald now, because like yes, it can crash over, but then also trying to like fusion summon and then you can negate the herald. Then now there's no second herald to come back. Like
Is Malulu not 1k?
there's like it's 1,100, so it's like beats it by 100.
Oh, does it? Oh.
Yeah. So it's really
It's funny.
Yeah. So like the chance of like once you add that one herald, like Malulu like really pushes out the herald unless they like go for a double book, like go for a book or something. But say if you just normal summon the one Malulu and then you try and like crash over the herald, it forces an interaction. But then like say like a reduction, they can reduce the attack of the Malulu, and then like Malulu fusion summon, they still can't book. So either the herald negates that, or the herald will be negated. Now there's no second herald to back it up, which I think is actually kind of handy. But yeah, sorry, what was last thing we were saying?
The only other card we haven't talked about is a very popular one for the community. Branded Fusion went back to 2 instead of 3. Pretty popular. It's obviously because we've just had the Chronicle series, I think, has hit its end point. The final episode, I think, should be dropping this week that we're recording. And the Chronicles deck should be coming out in the next few weeks or months.
Yeah.
With its all foil and some new Albaz cards. I think we've also been told, as part of Burst Protocol in the OCG, we will be getting some new cards. I think already the Dogmatica, some new Dogmatica has been updated.
There's a new card that's released. It's a fusion, and then they're going to get like one more card, I think, for branded specifically. But I don't know. I feel like the fusion went to 2 on Master Duel, and if they want to just keep pushing it, it's like, to be honest, it's like it 2 doesn't really matter too much. I think it's maybe a case of, with the new Draco Tail card coming out, it being a light spellcaster, as far as I'm aware. It's either a light spellcaster or light dragon. It being a light is the thing that's important, because then you can send it and Albaz to make Albion, and then start doing combos from there.
So it created a clean bridge for the 2 decks that didn't exist before.
Yeah.
And that's probably the variant people are going to test the most, because I think over here we were expecting imports of Spoon, which was the last Magistus card that came as like promos for the OCG. We got in Battle of Legends, whatever, the recent one that was pushed in Europe, we got the new Crowley, we got the new Fusion Negate, but we missed Spoon, which some people saw as like a critical piece of that engine.
It's actually not, though. People don't realize this yet, but it's like definitely not. Like you can play with just the Crowley, and the import's actually pretty reasonable. I think you give up a Seals, but you have a Monster Negate, and you can end on like a Kali Yuga, and then you have another way to fuse into a Magistus fusion that does like a pop or something like that. But essentially, it's like it is still real, and it's like it's a way stronger end board.
We found a new Floodgate to play.
Yeah, there's a new Floodgate to play.
We're not playing Winda and the bricks anymore. We're playing.
Yeah, you play one, no bricks, and they get so much better. But no, I think it'll be interesting to see how Draco Tail's played. I think it's definitely one of the Justice Hunters decks that's the most interesting. I also think with Obedience School going to 1, it might allow Yummy players to maybe consider things that are like other ways to play Yummy, right? Like there might be more deck diversity around Yummy, because if you play Obedience School, you're forced to just play Obedience School, but with it at 1, there's maybe more of an argument to try other builds of Yummy that are maybe better.
So you're saying is Yummy players can unstrap their helmets? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, like it's sort of, it's one of those things where it's like, if you have a big crutch, I think this was the comment on like Branded for like the longest time, where it's like Branded having Branded Fusion made it so that the only way to play Branded was that you had to play like a lock into the Fusion version, obviously, and you were so hamstrung around like the Branded Fusion that you were like just forced to play it that way and no other way.
And Synchro Branded was right there.
Yeah, exactly. There the whole time. We could have been going Seals into Albaz. It's crazy. What?
This is a throwback to like 2 years ago
Yeah.
now, when we first met.
I love that deck so much. You have no idea.
I do think as well, we mentioned the Dogmatic stuff. I really like the look of, I think the new Dogmatic hand traps coming out in this current, like this one coming up.
Yeah.
I think that looks really cool to me. The fact that you can double pop on your opponent's turn, I think is really cool. I don't know how big it will be, but I mean, there's also variants with it as well. I don't know how many dogmatic other traps there are, but I know like
I think they're printing another one, and then you can use so they've got punishment already, obviously, and you can use. There's a new one as well, but I don't think it's that good, which is the problem.
No, it's punishment turbo right now for that card, which it's fine. That's still like an interesting turn 1 interrupt. We're clearly the game's gearing towards turn 0 plays.
I don't hate it.
It's not an issue. I think the issue, like Vanquish Soul receiving so many hits, I think the issue was how much they could achieve on turn 0. Obviously, the K9 engine says I'm establishing a rank 5. What that will do is flexible depending on what you need. Either you need a Nash Knight that can seal something, or you want to take a Ripper to like negate a hand effect.
Mm-hmm.
Vanquish Soul said, I'm going to summon a Raisin, add a card from my engine to my hand, typically a Caesar, which you can turn on. And then I'm also going to blow up column, and then whenever you set a card, or if you have like another way to play, like Yummy, obviously you might just remove the level 1, and then if they have a surprise, I'm going to Caesar pop that as well. And then all of a sudden you don't have any interrupts anymore. And your opponents also went plus on engine. That feels a bit too... I think that's why they neutered that deck. It was a bit ahead of its time, similar to Tier to some degrees.
Yeah, it definitely felt like you were doing way more on the turn 0, essentially. You just sort of like force both players to be playing like on immediately.
Our turn.
Okay, free player. No, I think there's a world where that can be balanced right, but you need enough other decks to also be able to do that. Yeah. And I think the problem is something like we can have lots of decks have a wee turn 0 play, and once we build up to there, and then maybe have a few more generic turn 0 plays that lots of different decks can play, then we can live in a world where everyone's playing on turn 0 and there's still deck diversity. I think the problem is if you have lots of turn 0 plays with Vanquish Soul K9, you're not going to have any deck diversity in the sense that like that deck sort of hedges things out. And obviously,
again, it was the same issue of Tier could do so much more compared to its competitors on the either player's first turn.
Yummy was like a counter pick to that though, in the sense that it didn't like turn on the K9 cards. So it's almost like, in a weird way, obviously Yummy's still a combo deck, but it's like Yummy was the flu here, and then K9 Vanquish Soul was like the Tier deck here, because it was doing so much on its own turn. But
yeah, we just had to pray Droplet was like Shifter, and we just Dropleted their cards, thrusted for talents, looked at their hand, saw the Raisin Mad Love Caesar, and just decided to scoop there.
Yeah. I think the new Marshmallow, or Marshmallow, whatever it is, the Marshmallow thing, I think that's interesting because they've, in a way, it feels like a very balanced card, right? Because they've lost Obedient School, but this card says I can special summon this without having any monsters on the field. So you still have like a starter without wasting your normal summon, which I think is interesting. Like, it's given it a little bit of a boost, but at the same time, it's given it its first card that does play into K9, because like it is an activated effect. So now Yummy actually has to really think, like, oh, my board isn't looking fantastic. Do I just have to play straight into K9 here? So I kind of like that they've released this. It feels a little bit more balanced, and it's kind of pushing you to a decision tree of, oh, do I risk it into K9? Which seems a bit more interesting. Sorry, a little bit of a segue there. But like on the Banlist topic, I don't think there's much more else like to talk about. Like, we've got Glow Up Ball, but at 3, I think is interesting. Like, I don't know, you could probably talk about doing something for Yummy there, like a foolish Glow Up Ball, but I don't know. It seems more bricky than it's worth. Like,
it's probably something which might be applicable later in the game's life. Like all the sets, all the cards we know coming out in the OCG as well. Glow Up Bulb hasn't been something you'd even consider playing in those decks. Like Yummy's the most likely candidate because it's a level 1, but even then, Jet Synchron already does what Glow Up Bulb would have done, so people weren't playing that card either. It's not necessary. It's also a tuner, which is actually kind of bad because you can treat like the Link one as a tuner for Yummy.
Yeah, it's sort of irrelevant. I think what it's there for is, the 5Ds decks that are coming out?
Yeah, the new Legendary deck collection.
That's why it's come off. Because of the Legendary decks, it's probably there for... Because I think the 3... Is it... One of them's...
It's Crow, it's Yusei, and it's...
Akiza?
Yeah, because hers is to support the new Dimension support.
Right. So if it's Akiza, it makes sense for Glow Up Bulb to come back because that's like her card.
There's no Dandelion though.
No Dandelion.
It's no pre-errata Dandelion.
I'm so annoyed that like they made the Dandelion like retrain.
White Dandelion.
It's so bad. I'm like they could have just made it and said the tokens can only be used as synchro material and it would have been fixed. It would have been fine.
Yeah, they're not very good at designing like retrain cards. They're very like afraid of opening the same like Pandora's box. But again, we're going into the next video you need to watch. Upcoming set discussion.
Yeah. We can go into that now. So,
Well, actually,
do we want to say that that's Banlist and we're wraps? So,
well, I don't know, because we still got Lightning Storm coming back, which doesn't really make much of a difference.
Listen, old man, we've already spoke about these cards.
Yeah,
we've literally went through
And
every
what was
single card.
Skyblaster? I have not heard someone say Skyblaster. Has anybody said Skyblaster?
That card is so irrelevant. No one talked about it. That's why.
But now it's been mentioned. We can move on.
It was banned for Striker. Because Konami's afraid of cards that aren't good.
Yeah, but I mean, is there anything else with it? We've talked about what. Do any of the unbans really matter? To be honest, I don't really think so.
I think the Lightning Storm matters, and Glow Up Bulb will matter in the future. Barrage is nice and could matter because I can construct a deck that plays, let's say, Zodiacs, and then let's say you're also playing hand traps and you're also playing Fiendsmith cards. So your end board is maybe something like a bunch of hand traps,
control strategy,
Trident, and then a Way of High King Caesar, and that's like your control deck, and you can make that relatively easy, and you can play like a Shakanine package or whatever, so that you can make like a bunch of it'll work. It's fun.
Okay, so finishing there then, Ray, are you happy with this ban list? We'll double mic you for this one.
Yes, I think it was a pretty good list that we got. I'm pretty happy with where the format's looking like it's going to end up. And I hope they continue to make bigger ban lists like this in the future, where we see a lot of like unlimits on the list. We see cards coming off. It opens the deck diversity, and people can come back with their pet decks. Like Snake Eyes players are going to come back. Some Zoo players might be interested in trying. True Draco players. I think that's good.
For me, this gets a solid thumbs up. Ooh. Joe, what do you think?
Like all the decks I like. No. Every single deck I like actually gained from this. Branded gained. Memento didn't get touched. Memento K9 is maybe the best version of K9 at the moment. No. Yeah, that's not.
You can sing the song.
It's not Cope. It's not Cope. Memento goes crazy. And then also Draco Teal got a massive buff from this for like multiple reasons. Both Vanquish Soul going down, and then Yummy also going down. So I don't know. All the decks I like massive stonks, and then all the decks I don't like massive down. So I'm like kind of happy.
Where else can people hear about stonks in Yu-Gi-Oh?
I do market watches sometimes when I can. I also told everyone to buy the platinum gadget like ages ago. It was in one of the market watches.
There you go.
And then lastly, Zuko, do you have an opinion for this? You heard it here, folks. Sniff sniffs.
You're not going to ask people to give us
your
thoughts? Give
subscribe.
us your thoughts. Holy
What's your thoughts now?
You just watch, just consume content, please. Don't contribute, consume.